Ever since its start on the Super Nintendo, Mario Kart has pretty much been on every Nintendo console. Its success led to a sequel being made for the Nintendo 64, and that proved successful for that system as well. Fast forward to the year 2001, and Nintendo has a new system for their family of Game Boys titled Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance supported multiplayer via the link table, allowing players to connect to one another for multiplayer. A little while after the GBA release, Nintendo released a game for a series known for its multiplayer, and that game was Mario Kart Super Circuit. Super Circuit was the third entry in the series, and put the series on a handheld for the first time. Upon release, it received overwhelmingly positive scores. I'm talking 8 and 9s out of 10. However, as of writing this video, it's nearly 21.5 years since this game came out. We are currently on the 8th entry of this series, and that is adding old courses via the Booster Course Pass. That brings up the question of whether or not this entry is worth returning to. This question becomes even more relevant when you consider this game was recently announced to be part of the starting lineup of GBA games for the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass, so that means more people will be given the opportunity to play this game. Well, let's find out. Let's start by taking a look at the modes available. There's the Grand Prix, which houses the different cups you will be racing through. For each cup you are given a rank based on performance. That rank isn't completely based on if you come first in all races, but also includes stuff like how much time you let go of the acceleration and how much time you went off-road. Both of those lower your rank. Time Trials allows you to try to complete a course as fast as possible. Lastly, Quick Run simply allows you to replay a specific course. In its settings, you can change if races are 3 or 5 laps, or whether or not there are items/coins. Now I know you might be thinking, where's the Battle Mode? Well, Battle Mode is one of the 2 modes reserved for multiplayer, and I don't know anyone who would be willing to play this game with me. But let's talk about those modes. Up to 4 players can play multiplayer. In Battle Mode, each player is given a set of balloons and they have to pop their opponent's set. If you are eliminated, you are not completely out of the picture. If there are any remaining players, you turn into a bomb and can influence the match. You can pick up item boxes so other players can't have them, and you can blast yourself into them as well. I don't think this mechanic has returned in any future Mario Karts, so if it hasn't, I think it would be an interesting idea for it to make a return as an option, because who doesn't like screwing over their friends in Mario Kart? As for the second multiplayer mode, it's Versus Mode. It's just multiplayer quick run. Now, onto the tracks. When you start the game, only 4 cups are unlocked. The Mushroom Cup has Peach Circuit, Shy Guy Beach, Riverside Park, and Bowser Castle 1. The Flower Cup has Mario Circuit, Blue Lake, Cheese Land, and Bowser Castle 2. The Thunder Cup consists of Luigi Circuit, Sky Garden, Cheep Cheep Island, and Sunset Wilds. Lastly, the Star Cup has Snowland, Ribbon Road, Yoshi Desert, and Bowser Castle 3. There is also a 5th cup. After you get first place on all previously mentioned cups, you unlock the Special Cup, which includes Lakeside Park, Broken Pier, Bowser Castle 4, and Rainbow Road. That makes for a total of 20 new courses. I'm gonna be honest, none of these tracks are particularly interesting, since this is a 2D Mario Kart and all the tracks are flat. I know this isn't the fault of the game and it's just the limitations of the hardware, but it can be a hurdle for those coming from later entries in the series. Don't let that stop you, as there are some interesting ideas implemented in these tracks. For example, Lakeside Park takes place near a volcano and balls of fire rain down onto the course. Those balls can also land on the course and you have to drive around them. In Sunset Wilds, if you run into a Shy Guy, he will grab you, causing you to slow down on his coins. Also, every time you complete a lap, time passes and the sun goes down. Sky Garden, Ribbon Road, and Cheese Land are 3 tracks that have a unique theme. Sky Garden takes place in the clouds with beanstalks. Ribbon Road is made of ribbon, bet you didn't figure that one out, and Cheese Land is, well, made of cheese. Like, who had the idea of, let's make a track out of cheese and have a mouse civilization in the background? Pretty out there idea, I should say. I just wish the game had this variety in track theming for its entire runtime, as was it really necessary to have 3 circuit tracks and 4 Bowser castles? I do want to give some credit to Luigi Circuit though. Since it is raining on that track, there are puddles that you have to avoid so that you don't spin out. It adds a nice challenge to an otherwise uninspired track. Despite all this, these tracks were still fun to race on because of the gameplay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. As for the battle maps, there are 4 which all are excellently named: Battle Course 1, Battle Course 2, Battle Course 3, and the coolest of them all, Battle Course 4. Probably took a long time to come up with names like those. Anyways, those courses are just arenas shaped like boxes, so I don't have much to say about them. Looking at the roster, there are 8 playable characters, all returning from Mario Kart 64. We have Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Wario, and Bowser. Fun fact, if you play Versus Mode and only have 1 game cartridge, every player will be a Yoshi. One player is obviously green, but the others are red, blue, and yellow. Refocusing back onto the main cast, all the characters are divided into 3 classes: Lightweights are quick to speed up, have low top speed, and skid easily. Toad, Peach, and Yoshi fit into this class. Middleweights are an all-around class. They have no weaknesses, but also no strengths. This class is shared between Mario and Luigi. Heavyweights are the opposite of lightweights. They take a while to speed up, but have a higher top speed. They skid less as well. The heavyweights consist of Bowser, Wario, and Donkey Kong. I think it's time we head off to the races. Super Circuit, despite being released after 64, takes most of its gameplay elements from the first game. Outside of the spiny shell, yes, it's called the spiny shell, not the blue shell, none of the items introduced from the N64 title make a reappearance in this game. This means items like the Super Mushroom or Fake item are not present. The only items from Super that are not in the game are the coin and the feather. The coin not being here isn't that big of a deal, since I bet most people would have rather gotten an actual item instead of the coin. As for the feather, I wish it was in this game because it could have allowed for some unintended shortcuts to be discovered. This reason is rather important for a subject I'll get to soon. In total, there are 11 items: mushroom, triple mushrooms, banana, green shell, triple green shells, red shell, triple red shells, spiny shell, boo, star, and lightning. Well, technically that's only 8 items, not counting triples, and the triple mushrooms aren't even in normal races. Mushrooms give you a boost, green shells cause your opponent to spin out, with red shells homing in on the racer ahead of you. The banana can also cause your opponent to spin out. Spiny shells target first place, boos grant invincibility and steal an item, stars also grant invincibility and maintain speed off-road, and lastly, lightning strikes other opponents and slows them down. Now I want to compare Super Mario Kart to Super Circuit since they are both 2D Mario Karts. The controls feel like Super Mario Kart. I played both games and the way the karts turn and drift feel similar. The karts feel loose, and if you just drift, you likely will go off-road. Just like in Super, when drifting left for example, you want to hold left but then hold right in order to straighten your vehicle. It's a technique that's integral to winning races because just letting go of the acceleration increases your lap time. An improvement Super Circuit has over Super is the AI and balancing. You won't be seeing stuff like CPUs jumping over hazards or using items not available to the player. They also aren't master class drivers, as they can still make mistakes. It's not perfect as that coin bumping mechanic returns, and this wasn't a good choice as it gives the AI an unfair advantage. Essentially, your opponents can bump into you and make you lose coins. If you have 0 coins and an opponent bumps into your cart, you spin out. It makes sense on paper until you realize you can't do the same thing to them. Bumping into them still makes you lose coins. They can hurt you, but you can't hurt them. This is annoying when you're surrounded by a bunch of racers and are getting bounced around like a tennis ball. Fortunately, your opponents can't collect coins, so any you see are for you to grab. I'm just glad the system hasn't returned in later entries. I mentioned before that I'm comparing Super Circuit to Super because they're the only 2D Mario Karts. Well, there's another reason I'm doing this. It's the extra cups. Their inclusion is what I would call a pretty baller move. If you replay every cup while getting first and getting 100 coins, you'll unlock the courses from the SNES game. It's not just a few courses, no. It's the entirety of Super Mario Kart's courses. It's like 2 games in 1. Adding the courses made for Super Circuit and the Super Tracks, you have a total of 40 tracks to race on. I know that's not saying much considering that Super Tracks aren't known for being unique, but their inclusion is still welcomed. I am mixed on the whole 100 coins portion of unlocking them though. It challenges you to get better and rewards you for your effort. But if you get really unlucky with how many items hit you, you could come up short when you complete a cup. However, you can retry a race across a cup 3 times, so that helps mitigate the issue. Nearing the end of a race but you got a low number of coins? Just retry the race. It's not perfect, but it's a decent solution. Another gripe I have with unlocking the tracks is that you have to unlock them for every CC. If you unlock them in 100cc, you would then have to unlock them in 50 and 150cc. It would have been better if you just had to unlock them in 1cc and then it would unlock for the others, but oh well. The extra tracks also aren't one-to-one recreations of their SNES counterparts visually and gameplay wise. The tracks reuse some assets from the Super Circuit tracks. For example, Mario Circuit 1 uses the background from Peach Circuit, and Donut Plains 2 uses the background from Riverside Park. There are a few obstacles that were removed, such as oil slicks and pipes, but these complaints feel like nitpicks as the tracks for the most part remain the same. I want to bring the conversation back to the feather. Like I said previously, I wish it was here, and that's because if you have the SNES tracks, why not bring back the item that allowed for cool skips in that game? For example, Bowser Castle 2, you can make this turn, and if you do, you'll be met with a path leading towards lava with the words "stop" on the ground. In the original game, you could use the feather to jump over the lava pit and skip a part of the course. Now you can't do that anymore, which is a real shame. This is even worse for unintended shortcuts players discovered that required the feather. It limits the player to following the intended path, which is unfortunate because it was fun to see what creative ways you could use that item to win the race. The music was recreated as well, and these songs didn't smoothly transition over to the GBA. This is especially true for Rainbow Road. The opening doesn't give off the same vibe. Give it a listen. This is unlike the original, where it felt magical. This is the final course of the Special Cup, and it's going to push you to your limit. It felt like a reward and your final test. It should be going out with a bang. Speaking of music, I should talk a little bit about it. The soundtrack is just okay for me personally. Shy Guy Beach and Cheap Cheap Islands track sounds amazing. Outside of that one track I mentioned, nothing seemed to stick to me. None of them are bad by any means, but once I finished a track, any memory of the music vanished. Granted, I did only play the game for roughly 4 to 5 hours, but I also just don't see myself looking up these tracks to listen to them. I know there are some who probably have this soundtrack ingrained into their skulls, but I'm not one of them. So, should you play Mario Kart Super Circuit despite us being in an era of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? In my opinion, yes. The 40 tracks available offer great replay value, and while simple in theming and track design, I had a ton of fun with this game, and may return to play on 150cc or get 3-star ranks. It is also a great way to play the original SNES tracks with a modern flair, or at least what was considered modern back in 2001, without needing to go back to the original. They were the stepping stones to what we know today as retro tracks, which is something that we should really thank this game for. If you do have the expansion pass, or have this game lying around, you should take Mario Kart Super Circuit for a spin. This is Adam, signing off. Peace.